Hello everybody, welcome back to Mrs. Clementi's reading channel. We are going to continue reading Ali Cross, and if you remember, we left off with him visiting Gabe's father, who was not very happy to see him in his home. And Ali thinks that the detective on the case is hiding things from him, and he's not quite sure why or what has been hidden. So now we are going to start off with his father, Alex Cross. It says, it was early Sunday morning when Alex Cross got another text from Detective Olayinka. Hey Alex, you awake? Yeah, what's up? Another robbery in your neighborhood. 2 of them actually, sometime in the last 24 hours. But I need to talk to you about one in particular. Sure, any details? Best to talk to you in person if that's okay. We're just around the corner from you, on Ellen Wilson Place. Can't miss us. You free right now? Alex was glad to be included in anything to do with this case, but Olayinka's air of urgent mystery, or whatever that was, did not sit well. What could Isaac have to say that couldn't go into a text or be told in a phone call? There was one quick way to find out anyway. The house Olayinka had mentioned was even closer than the last robbery on 4th Street. Alex walked around the block to 6th and cut in on Ellen Wilson Place, a small alley of side street with some surprisingly well-to-do homes along its narrow passage. He found the detective waiting for him outside while several other personnel came and went through the front door of a 3-story brick house lit up on all levels from the inside. What's going on? Alex asked. It seemed odd for the lead detective to station himself out there. Something had changed, Alex thought. He could feel it on a gut level, and the last thing he needed that morning was one more complication. I'm sorry to pull a move on you, Olayinka said, but I just wanted to show you this first, off the record, before it goes into evidence. We found it on the back steps where someone jammed the door. Olayinka pulled a small, clear evidence baggie from his puffy-down coat pocket and held it out to show. It looked like the bag held a credit card or ID of some kind. What is it? Alex asked, and why do I think I'm not going to like it? Just take a look, Olayinka told him, handing over the sealed evidence. As Alex peered closer, he saw that it was in fact a student ID card from Washington Latin Middle School. The sight of it sent his pulse spiking even before he turned the card over, and there, on the front, was Ali's name and picture. If he hadn't been staring at himself, Alex might not have believed what he was seeing. This has to be some kind of mistake, he said. I'm hoping so too, Olayinka answered, taking the evidence and sliding it back into his pocket. But I just wanted you to know we're going to have to consider this one very seriously, and we're going to want to talk to your son. Chapter 31. Dad was shaking me awake again. It was Sunday morning, and I was wondering if we were going out to breakfast like the last time. What's up? I asked. Are we going somewhere? 'Cause I'm starving. Where were you yesterday afternoon? Dad asked, and the way he asked it, I knew in less than a second that something bad had happened. How come? I asked, but he only looked back at me. The ball was in my court to answer, and we both knew it. I was hanging out with Cedric, I said. Are you sure about that? Dad asked, and will Cedric be sure about it when the police ask him? I was awake now, wide awake. Dad, what's going on? I asked. Detective Olayinka wants to speak with you, he said. They found your school ID at the site of another robbery, one that could have happened any time in the last 24 hours. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like it didn't even make sense. But I have my ID. It's in my coat pocket, I said. Let's see. So I was up in a second, ran down the stairs to the hooks by the front door. I reached into the right pocket of my coat where I always kept my ID and my house key, but all I found was the key. I tried the left pocket after that, but it was empty. Same thing for every other pocket in that coat, and the more I checked, the bigger the pit in my stomach started to get. Dad was watching me from the bottom of the stairs. Nothing? He asked. It must have dropped out, I said, but at the same second, I realized where it must have dropped out. Back at the Qualls house, which meant I had a whole lot of explaining to do. A lot of coming clean, too. It was like everything I'd been building up to all this time was about to come crashing down, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. We've got a lot to talk about, Dad said. I didn't break into any houses, I swear, I cried. I'm not trying to panic, but I felt like I was running away from an avalanche. If that's what you say, then I believe you, Dad said, but something tells me there is more to this story. I felt like I just stumbled into a brand new nightmare, and as impossible as it seemed, it was also clear to me what was going on here. Mr. Qualls was trying to frame me for robbery. That's terrible. Chapter 32. Instead of going back to youth services like the last time, Dad took me to the Dolly Building on Indiana Avenue. That's police headquarters in Washington, where Detective Olianka worked and where Dad's office was too. The lobby of the building was in this huge, high-ceilinged place that echoes as you walk through. It always feels like something out of Gotham City to me. I could see Batman facing down the Joker in a place like that. But not us. We had a different kind of face-off, with the press. I guess they always hung out there looking for a story, so they moved in on Dad as soon as we came through the revolving doors. Not because they were expecting us, but because Dad's trial was starting the next day. Detective Cross, how are you feeling about tomorrow? Have you apologized to the Yang family, Alex? Alex, over here, just a few questions. I already felt bad dragging Dad down here, but now I felt even worse. The last thing he wanted that day was to face full of reporters. Hey, Ollie, one of them called out while we moved toward the security station. What are you doing here with your father? Dad put a hand on my shoulder. I knew what that meant, too. Just keep moving. But he didn't have to worry about me this time. I'd learned my lesson the hard way, and I knew these people weren't asking real questions. They just wanted something that would make people click on their stories or buy their papers. Besides, I had way bigger things to worry about right now. No comment, I said to all the reporters. Some people laughed like it was funny for a kid to say that, but I didn't care. Dad gave me a proud of you squeeze and steered us towards the metal detectives. The press wasn't allowed past security, but they kept calling out questions while I emptied my pockets into a white plastic bowl and put it on the conveyor belt. Then I stepped through the scanner and waited for Dad to do the same. Detective Cross, any last words for us, Alex? Alex, over here. Neither one of us said a word, not until we were on the elevator and heading up to the 4th floor. Then Dad kind of leaned into me the way he does when he's trying to cheer me up. Good job, he said. I'm sure that was not easy for you. Easier than you think, I told him, because the fact was, the hard part was just ahead of me, not behind me. Chapter 33. The next surprise was seeing Detective Sutter in the 4th floor bullpen when we got there. She was waiting for us along with Detective Olianka, and it only took me a second to realize that this was actually good news. If Sutter and Olianka were both interested in the robberies, that meant I was right about Gabe having something to do with it. It also meant twice the law enforcement out there looking for my friend. But meanwhile, I had some hot water to get out of. Technically, and maybe officially, I was a suspect now. They brought us into one of those little interview rooms, just like the last time at youth services. The only difference was the red light on the ceiling camera was lit, which felt kind of weird. If they were recording this meeting, did that mean someone was going to watch it later and analyze my answers? And did that mean I had to be even more careful about what I said? Sure, no pressure. Are you guys working together on the Gabe Qualls case? I asked once we sat down. Sutter and Olianka looked at each other. They didn't say anything, but I could see the yes in their expressions. Ollie, we're going to keep it focused this time, Detective Sutter said. We won't be answering any questions for you today. My knee was bouncing like crazy, and Dad put a hand on it under the table to stop me. I was nervous for sure. Not just about what they were going to ask me, but also about everything I knew I had to tell them now. Olianka went first. So how do you think your school ID got on the back steps of that house? I can't prove anything, I said, but if you ask me, Mr. Qualls put it there. That guy is shady with a capital S. What makes you say that? Olianka asked. Well, here it went. I hadn't even told Dad the story yet. I hadn't had the nerve to bring it up in the car, and I knew he was going to find out soon enough, like right now. So I told them about the laptop, the conversation I'd had with Gabe inside his bunker in Outpost. Then I told them about what happened when I went to the Qualls house and how Mr. Qualls threw my coat out the door like he had. He either stole my idea out of my pocket or it fell when he threw my coat, I said. Either way, he's the only person who had a chance of getting it off me. Olyanka sat back and gave me a look that I didn't like so much. That's quite a big story. On the same day you've been implicated in this, he said. Why didn't you come forward as soon as you spoke with Gabe? Because Gabe asked me not to, I said. It was like someone had just turned up the heat in that little room. The back of my neck was itchy and my knee was going again. Did they think I was trying to lie my way out of this? I wanted to protect him, I kept going, and I was also trying to figure out what I was protecting him from. That's why I was investigating his dad. Mr. Qualls has something to do with this. I just don't know what it is. Didn't you tell your father that you thought Gabe was part of the robbery? Sutter asked me. Yeah, I said, looking at Dad. I guess they've been talking about it. But there's some reason making him do it. I'm positive. And now you're saying Mr. Qualls is also involved somehow, even though Gabe is missing? That's the weird part, I said. I haven't really figured it all out yet. I saw the way they looked at each other when I used the word investigating, and it made me mad, to be honest. I knew my investigation wasn't real compared to theirs, but the fact was, I learned a thing or two since I started, including a few things even they didn't know until I told them. Where did you go after you left the Qualls house? Olyanka asked. To Cedric's, I said. We hung out, talked about Gabe stuff, and played some Outpost. Then I came home for dinner. Sutter was still scribbling notes. And were you home all night? Olyanka asked. Yes, I said. Can you vouch for him? Olyanka asked Dad. Or is it possible he could have snuck out? Oh, come on, Dad said. But Olyanka just waited and Dad went on. I was asleep, so if I had to swear, then no, I can't say for sure. Has he ever snuck out before? Dad looked at me again. Have you? Maybe, I said. I mean, yeah, but I didn't sneak out last night, I swear. I believe you, Dad said, and looked at the detectives. Okay, Sutter closed her notebook. I think that's everything we need for now. A minute later, we were on our way out of there. I didn't know if I'd just gotten myself in deeper, or if I was in the clear, or what. But there was one thing that kept scratching at my brain all the way home. It was something Gabe said to me when I talked to him online that night. He said to me it would be better for both of us if I stopped trying to find him. For both of us. I didn't know about it at the time, but now it made a whole new kind of sense. Because Mr. Qualls is nobody you want to mess with. And that was as true for Gabe as it was for me. And I could see clearly now, but about a day too late. Chapter 34. In the car, Dad let me have it. We need to talk about this detective work of yours, he said. Mr. Qualls might be dangerous, which you already knew. In fact, it concerns me more than anything that you did know that and you went inside the house. I brought Cedric, I said. I didn't go by myself. Do you really think that's going to make me feel any better, Dad says. It puts two of you in a place that you shouldn't be. This isn't a game, Ali. I know that, I shouted back. As soon as it came out, I felt sorry for yelling, but it was too late to stop. This whole thing was spilling up and out of me now, like it or not. Gabe's my friend, I said, and it's like nobody cares. I mean, I know they're doing their jobs, but it's been 3 weeks, more than 3 weeks, and I'm the only person who's actually talked to him. You want to know the truth, Dad? It shouldn't be that way. Those detectives should be doing their jobs and finding them. Why is it taking so long? Why isn't anyone... And my throat closed before I could finish. Around the words before I could finish. I wasn't even seeing straight, and then my eyes filled up with water. Why isn't anyone finding my friend? I asked. Dad pulled over in front of an apartment building on 3rd Street and put the car in park. Come here, he said. He gave me a big hug, and I kind of emptied out, crying as hard as I ever have. I was just really, really stressed, and I was sad that my friend wasn't getting the attention he deserved. I'm sorry, I said. I didn't mean that about the police. Nothing to be sorry for, Dad said. And then he sat back down and looked at me across the street. You want to know something? I was so angry about how a case is going one time that I punched a mirror in the bathroom at work. I even cried that day. You did? I asked. It was a lot easier for me to imagine Dad punching something than for him crying. Not that he's like super tough, Luke Cage kind of thing, but at the same time he is pretty tough. One of the hard things about this work is not taking the job too personally, Dad said. Most days I can do that, but every once in a while, not so much. I talked to Dad about his job a million times, but he never said these things before. You have everything it takes, Ollie, Dad went on. If you want to be a real detective someday, then that's exactly what you're going to be. It's when you stop caring that you have to worry. I wasn't crying anymore, but there were still tears on my cheeks, and I wiped them on my sleeve. I took one of those shaky breaths and tried to refocus while Dad pulled away from the curb. Then we were driving again. Thanks, Dad, I said. In the meantime, I'm putting you on hold, he said. No more investigation on this. No more going anywhere near the Qualls house, and no more secrets. You have a tendency to go all in, Ollie. There's no halfway for you, and that makes me nervous. Actually, no, it terrifies me. It does? I was learning all kinds of new things about Dad. Yes, it does. We have one missing kid already. I will not take any chances on you becoming the next one. No more of this investigation for you. Got it? Yes, sir, I said. I got it. But at the same time, I wasn't 100% sure that I was making a promise I could keep. All right, let's see what happens next time. I hope you enjoy this book. Keep on listening. Bye, everybody.